The following interview is a Blanchard community production. This is Leadership Unfiltered, Community Conversations, an interview series dedicated to diving into leadership topics relevant to today's world. I'm your host, Sarah Hempel, a community builder, relationship guru, and passionate difference maker. Our aim is to hold a safe space for difficult conversations as we shed light on leadership around the world. So, join us as we dive into Leadership Unfiltered. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our 5th episode of Leadership Unfiltered Community Conversations. I'm Sarah. My pronouns are she, her. And this month, we're going to talk about strength through change, a journey of resilience and leadership. You're going to hear that word change again, and you might have noticed in the title, it's not spelled how I thought it would be. There's a fun story to go with that, so stay tuned. I'm super excited to be joined by Ferenc Szabo, co-founder of chAYnj, a leadership development business where he leverages his expertise to equip leaders with the skills to thrive in high-pressure, multicultural environments. Ferenc is also the newly published author of Frankly Told. Yay! A candid and deeply personal memoir that invites readers into Ferenc's world, a life marked by perseverance, faith, and transformation. Ferenc, I am so excited to have you here today. It's been a journey getting to know you and connect with you and your wife. And now we're here doing this quick podcast like we've dreamt about for the past couple of months.
Yeah, well, hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me here. I have been looking forward to this day for quite some time. So yes, I'm excited to share whatever I can, share with you guys. And hopefully it'll be insightful and informative and everybody will have some takeaways.
Awesome. I love it. Well, as you and I know, but the listeners may not, I've had the chance to get to know you over the past year, and your journey has just been remarkable, for lack of any other words. It truly has been. So I would like to help the listeners get to know you a little bit. Can you share some of the pivotal moments that have shaped your resilience and your leadership style and kind of gotten you to where you are today?
Yeah, of course. So I'm originally from Hungary, born and raised. And then when I was 18, turning 19 years old, I immigrated to Canada. I lived there for 16 years. And then actually, I lived there for 22 years, but after 16 years, we relocated from Vancouver, BC to Toronto.
Mm-hmm.
And then 2 years ago, we moved to the US. So I think my leadership style has been shaped by the different places that I had the pleasure to live, had the pleasure to compete, train, and just work with different variety of people, different people from different backgrounds, different cultural settings, whatever it is, different languages. So yes, I feel very blessed, I guess, to have had the opportunity to tap into all these different areas.
Yeah, what an opportunity. You are a world traveler through all of your moves. That's super cool. So we mentioned resilience, and yep. I know that that's a common theme throughout your book, Frankly Told, but can you maybe tell us what does resilience mean to you? I think it's a word that we hear often and different people might have a different meaning. So coming from your perspective, what is resilience?
Yeah, so like the definition of resilience is just simply to have a capacity to withstand trials, challenges, and or the ability to recover fast, like to bounce back and just keep on moving forward, keep on pushing forward towards a goal that you have set out for yourself. So that's what resilience means to me. I mean, growing up as an athlete, we will always have had to come up with some certain goals. Like we always had to keep reminding ourselves, okay, what is it that I want to achieve in this sport?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
yeah. I love that. So resilience, that actually is my word. I pick a word each year, and mm-hmm. resilience is my word for 2025. I jokingly say that 2024 was like a dumpster fire in my life in like lots mm-hmm. of different ways, but I'm still here. And I feel like I'm stronger for the trials and tribulations that I went through. And so that word actually is really near and dear to my heart.
Mhm.
I think that when we were chatting before, you told me a little story that I want you to share with the audience because I loved it, but it was a really good way to like paint the picture. Do you remember that
Yeah,
story?
yes, of course. So there's this silly little joke about a gardener that has been working at a palace, and just a regular Joe walked by and saw how beautiful the lawn was. So he just
Mhm.
thought, I'm going to approach this gardener and ask him, like how to do this because I want to have the same kind of lawn in my backyard.
Mhm.
So he approaches him and then he asks him, like, what are the ways to, have such a beautiful lawn? And he's like, well, first you have to loosen up the soil, and then you have to take out all the weeds, and all the stuff that doesn't belong, right? And then you spread the seeds, right? And then
Mhm.
you water it, and then the grass grows. And when it's too long, then you just cut it, right? And then you water it again, right? And then it grows, right? And then you cut it again. And then you do that for a couple of 100 years. So, yeah. So when we talked about resilience, that was the first story that came to mind, just how you need to just keep on pushing forward, keep on, repeating sometimes the same thing over and over and over again, and figuring out, if whatever obstacles, that happen to be in your path, is it like, what does that obstacle represent? Is it an opportunity for you to change path? Is it an opportunity for you to grow? Um, so yeah, so that joke always reminds me that things won't just happen overnight.
I like how you framed that. Is that obstacle a chance to change paths? Is it a space for you to grow? Because I think a lot of times myself, I hit an obstacle and sometimes it's like I want to give up. Like I want to stop because I hit this giant roadblock. And you have to take a step back and remember like what was my ultimate goal and how can I get around, the right or the left, over or under, whatever that looks like. So
Yeah.
great point.
And I love that analogy that you said about the roadblock, because roadblocks, often are in our path to protect us from something that lies ahead, right?
Yeah.
So it can actually direct you to a better route, right? It can
Mhm.
still make you get to your final destination, but in a safe way. So
Mhm.
absolutely, an obstacle or roadblock
Look at
doesn't.
all these analogies we've got.
Yeah, yeah.
Frank
So
and
it's
I are
not
going to take this show on the road.
literally.
So I know that one of the things I shared in your bio is your involvement as an elite athlete and a coach, elite coach. And that required you to have a lot of just an extraordinary amount of focus and adaptability. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about how did those high pressure experiences shape how you approach leadership today?
Okay, so I can take us back like all the way to the beginning of my career as an athlete.
Mhm.
So over time, I think the very first year I started gymnastics, I started with another, like I think like 15 other, boys in the group. And
Mhm.
um, in 5 years, I was the only one that still was part of the program.
Mhm.
And when that happened, a one man group is not really a group. So they like
Right.
bumped me up to the people that were ahead of me.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden I had to work and train with guys that were like 5, 10 years older. And I needed to figure out a way to fit in. I needed to figure
Mhm.
out a way to measure up, the expectations and the standard that I needed to live up to and perform at was completely different than anybody else around my age.
Mhm.
And I really developed a kind of attitude, resilience, toughness,
Mhm.
that I literally did whatever it took to belong, right?
Mhm.
So if they went to the pub, I went to the pub.
Mhm.
And I guess the upside to that was that, growing up in Eastern Europe, that nobody cared about how old you were as long as you could pay for your drinks, for example, right? So I
Yeah.
didn't have to have a fake ID. So there you go. That's
Mhm.
that's an upside to that. Um, but jokes aside, it definitely made me understand what is it like to figure out ways to be accepted, figure out ways to belong, figure out ways to push past, discomfort.
Mhm.
Um, things that are completely transferable, skill set
Mm-hmm.
from sporting environment to corporate world,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Okay, so thinking about that, what would you tell the listeners if I said pick like 2 or 3 key lessons that you learned from that period in your life from elite sports? What would those lessons be?
So I think off the top of my head, as I think I already mentioned, embracing failure, as a learning opportunity. Yeah, thinking of obstacles, not something that is a setback, but it's something that can help you grow, that can help you direct you into the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that would be a key takeaway, in
Yeah.
leadership. Like failure is inevitable. Like, if
Yeah.
you're a visionary, you're gonna run into things that will make you think twice about certain steps that you need to take in order to achieve your goals, right?
Yep.
Um, but resilient leaders, they take these obstacles and they take these failures as feedback,
Yeah.
and not a defeat. So I think that's big. Second, self-awareness. You
Mm-hmm.
know, developing a kind of self-awareness that can, help you to get in touch with like who you are, understand yourself, understand what is the reason that you embarked on
Mm-hmm.
this journey to, you know, to have this goal that you set out for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And as a leader, when you have these kind of self-awarenesses, you'll be able to keep your triggers in check. You'll be able to
Mm-hmm.
have an understanding of your strength and weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you'll be aware of your blind spots.
Right.
And understanding those components are important because those are the things that can knock you off the track. And
Mm-hmm.
then all of a sudden now you're finding yourself trying to get back into track, which is time consuming rather
Right.
than having to work towards a goal, right? So once you develop that self-awareness, it's not about how I'm going to get back on track, but how am I going to stay on track?
Mm-hmm.
And once you're back in the groove, you'll be able to keep on moving forward.
Straight away.
Yeah, straight away.
I
And
love that.
I think the last one would be is just prioritizing well-being, both
Yeah.
physical and mental. Being in the right mind, being in check with your emotions,
Mm-hmm.
anything that otherwise would be working against you, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a healthy well-being, if you're happy, for most of
Mm-hmm.
the time, people want to work with you, you want to work with others, right?
Right.
It will help you to keep the balance, right?
Yeah. It's
Because
kind of like the analogy with the airplane. They come around. I've got little twins, and they come around and they tell you to, if something's happening with the plane, you take down your oxygen mask and put yours on first, because you have to take care of yourself first before you can be the best help, leader, guide, mentor, coach for anyone else.
absolutely, yeah. So I think to close on that, I would say resilience is not about endurance. It's not just strength, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's you just have to pace yourself,
Yeah.
take care of your well-being, prioritize, the things in your life that calms you down, that helps you to be almost zen,
Mm-hmm.
and that'll help you to move past difficulties. That'll help you to work with others
Yeah.
because if we're not careful, wanting to be resilient, can really like there's a downside to it too, right? And
Right.
just like everything in life, we want to make sure that we
Mm-hmm.
keep things balanced.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's awesome.
yeah,
So in your career, you've worked with diverse multicultural environments. You talked a little bit in the opening, telling us about being born in Hungary and moving to Canada and now living in the States. Um, you've worked with and interacted with a lot of different people. So what have you learned through all of that about fostering inclusive leadership across different cultural, geographical, language contexts?
yeah. So the different cultural settings, growing up and like as an athlete and where I ended up working as a coach
Mm-hmm.
was huge, like completely different. One is based on a selection system, trying to find the right athlete for the right thing, and really going through all kinds of assessment to, in support of that. And then moving to Canada, completely different mindset, completely different system. So much so that it's almost like there is no selection. It's like you have to work with whoever walks through the door. So that really taught me, okay, like in order to still challenge these athletes, challenge these, young men, I needed to find what are the things that were challenging enough for them, but not too demanding that they would want to quit and turn away from the sport. And it really became one of my motto, do what you can with where you are, with what you have. And I wanted to bring out the most from every single one of them. If for a certain athlete, that meant to go and represent their country at the Olympic Games, that's great. Then my job is going to be to help him to get there. But if an athlete's, optimal ability would only allow him to go and compete at a regional competition, and that would be the highlight of their career, then I took that goal just as seriously, as, the Olympics. And that helped me to develop, great relationships with my athletes. Everybody felt included, everybody felt part of each other's goal, everybody saw, why, an environment was so important. And I really needed to put aside, that urge to act like how I was raised, because that kind of environment where I grew up in, was like that didn't lead to good relationship with my coach.
Okay. Yeah.
And so when I became a coach, I was like, okay, I know exactly what I need to do. And thankfully, I was able to achieve most of the time. I don't even remember having, athletes. Like we need to almost like a coach needs to grow with their athletes, right? Like you're not going to treat an athlete at 15 years old like how you started working with them when they were 5.
Right.
And then the same thing when you're changing generations, you're not going to go back to a 5-year-old and expect them to behave and act and train like a 15-year-old would.
Right.
So
if you need practice with that, I'll send my 5-year-old twins over to you, and you can you can help them. Something there really resonated with me. You're talking about this from the perspective of coaching, and I know that you and I've had this discussion. Your book, Frankly Told, it tells a lot about your life. It tells a lot about your experience as a coach, but everything I'm hearing you say resonates with me in the leadership industry, right? Oh, I wonder why we're here having this conversation. Surprise. It's so true. All of the things that you talked about as a leader, you can set, your employees, your reports set goals, and you would treat the goal of person A as just as important as the goal of person B, even if they're totally different goals based on what each of those individuals are capable of, what their skill set, where they are in their career, etc. So I love how these lessons can go back and forth between the coaching and sports world and right into the corporate office. That's really neat.
Yeah.
Which I know you were thinking of when you wrote it. So
yeah. I mean, that's one of the reasons why I am doing what I'm doing today, because I realized that, there's a lot of transferable skills. And I really, like, I'm going to be honest with you, like I've gone to a point of, burnout because of my resilience. Like I didn't tap in to the community, that could have been around me to support me, which takes me back to, having a balanced sort of approach when it comes to resilience, right? And moving away from that, like taking a pivot, let's put it that way, taking a pivot in my career, it still allows me to tap into all that wisdom and all that knowledge, that I have gained, as an athletic coach, and put it in the corporate world, because teams are teams. People need to learn and know how to work together, as well as individually, the same as in any sport, right? And just the idea of, what is a challenge, how to overcome it, how to tap into your colleagues, your teammates,
Mm-hmm.
no difference. The only thing is different that one is in the gymnasium, the other one is in an office, right? But
Yeah.
goals need to be achieved. Project needs to be, delivered. And if you can develop the kind of connections amongst people, that is based on resilience, based on teamwork, then there will be result.
I love this. I love all these connections, which really leads us to our last question or part of this conversation. For leaders that are striving to build resilience and navigate the pressure of leadership, which is high, we know that. What advice would you have based on your experiences, or maybe a little nugget you're willing to share with us from Frankly Told, like practical tools that folks can walk away from this conversation today with?
Okay, so I think I would say that anybody can build resilience. It's not something that we're born with. It's something that we can develop, right? And we can develop it by having an intentional effort, right? Setting clear goals, setting smart goals. All of us know what our smart goals are, right? And yeah, whatever experiences that you've had in the past, find, those little things, those little nuggets, like you call them, that can help you to stay grounded, but also to, push you forward, to motivate you to take the next step towards these goals, right? My journey from elite sports to leadership showed me that while we can't always control what happens to us, we can control how we respond to these situations, right? And that response is where true resilience lies, right? And so whether you're facing a tough situation at work, a personal challenge, or simply everyday pressure, in life, just remember that you have the capacity to rise, to learn, and keep moving forward. Yeah. And
Love it.
I guess the last little thing that I would like to say, that relates to the book is basically on the last page of the book, where I just close everything, that being in a leadership role, becoming a leader, in our home, becoming a leader at our workplace, amongst our friends, peers, whatever it is. Okay, don't look at it as a pressure, but always look at it as a privilege. Right.
I love that. It's a great quote to end on. Thank you. So as we wrap up, do you have any, I don't even want to ask you if you have any final thoughts, because that was like mic drop. It was perfect, but I will ask you. Is there anything else you want to add?
I think I just want to encourage, people to strive for resilience. I want to encourage people to set big goals. And I want to encourage, more than anything, that do it with people, like supportive people around you. Because when you do resilience, when you do life, when you set big goals, it's always going to be easier to achieve them if you have a support system around you. Yeah.
100%. Thank you, Frank. This was an absolute pleasure to have you on today. Thank you for sharing your story with us.
Thank you for having me. I had a blast.
Yay. Well, thank you to everyone else for joining in, sharing in this time, and listening to the podcast. And until next time, join us over in the Blanchard community to unpack more conversations around leadership. Bye.
Bye, guys.